Hi, Shari.
Hi.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Hermit Life podcast. You are my first guest and my first
Yay.
crossover guest. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am well too. I am hopeful that we can get this to actually record this time. That would be lovely.
It would be lovely. So far, so good. Let's not jinx it.
Don't give it a kinahara, as my mother would say in Yiddish.
Exactly.
So you were an early
Me.
guest on the Shelter Cats podcast about your cat Jasper,
Yes.
that I may have had a small hand in your adopting.
You had
And
nothing to do with it. Now
not
you're
as
just telling lies. Go
no,
on.
I'm making shit up. And I this is my second this is my first recording in 5 weeks, called Hermit Life Podcast. And the point of this show is that you can be happy and live a fulfilled life and stay home and not have to go anywhere very often. Case in point, between episode 4, which was March 31st, and we're recording this on Friday, May 3rd, I left the house a grand total of 1 time.
Really?
I'm having trouble hearing.
You see?
Can you say that again?
Not you.
Sorry.
She's like, will you leave?
My smart devices are really trying to get me to leave. We're going to leave that in, down with it. So I left the apartment. Okay, I go to take out the garbage. I go to bring in deliveries. I physically leave my home to, like, sometimes I'll stand outside. I'll sit in the backyard for a while. But in terms of like leaving the property to go places, 1 time. I went not this past Thursday, the Thursday before I went to get a haircut.
Right.
Other than that, I have not really gone much of anywhere.
But I think we need to make a very important distinction, is that you're not agoraphobic. You're not afraid to leave the house. You just have no need or desire to.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
a choice. It's a
It's
choice.
a choice. You're not afraid to leave the house.
No, it's just I don't have a desire to.
Yeah. If I never had to leave my bed, that would be ideal.
That you could start the Hermit on In Bed Life podcast.
Yes.
That might be.
But I can't do that because I am married and have a small child. So there are many required, especially this time of year, social functions and activities of which I must be a part of. And that is not fun.
No, I know. I feel like if you had a choice, you would also live. You see, the first how I don't. As you know, my podcasts are lightly scripted and lightly planned out. I like to just kind of like speak from the heart. I don't really plan things out, and I'm told it's part of its charm. So I started with why a podcast about hermits, because the pressure to go out and do things and see the world and travel. I don't think you need to do that to be happy. I think you can be happy by staying home. And then I explored with myself, which again sounds weird. I shouldn't word it that way. I explored, am I a hermit or am I reclusive? Because
what is the difference?
As I understand the definition, hermits like isolate themselves from the world and they don't communicate with people and they live alone, completely isolated. Whereas if you're reclusive, you kind of do what I do, is you just kind of stay home. You don't go out very often. I think I'm not going to go see a shrink about this, but I think I'm a combination of the two, because I don't choose, like, you're here as my first guest to prove that I can be a hermit and have meaningful friendships with people.
Well, I think that's the difference between like what it is to be home now versus, before all the technology that made it possible for you to not leave the house and not have your world just be those 4 walls. your
Yeah.
access to relationships, to different people, to seeing different things is still there. Like, I'm this weird combination of I never want to leave the house, but if I'm gonna leave the house, it's gonna be good. Like, I'm gonna go to Hawaii or I'm gonna go to California. Like, I'm a weird mix of, like, I think it's offensive to say, but gypsy blood, like, where every once in a while I'm like, I have to go. But not like to the store, not like to Target to like walk around. Like, I have to like go try, like, pack a bag and go. And like sometimes I'll just wake up in the morning and be like, hey guys, pack a bag, we're going. And fortunately, I have a family that humors my crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm
You
like
should.
this weird mix of, like, I have my core group of people that I like, and there's things I want to see, but I don't necessarily need to add more people to the group.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and so what I wrote in the introduction to the show is you and I haven't seen each other since 2012.
Is that right?
Like, been in the same room, done
That
any
makes that makes sense.
because I know it was before I met my ex, and I met her in
Right.
2012. So it was definitely 2012 when was the last time we were actually in the same room together.
Yeah.
But but I consider you one of my closest
Probably
and
left
dearest.
crying.
Where yeah, just another step back. I know you. I'd say about 14, 15 years, and we briefly dated way back
Oh,
when.
that.
Um, we're just going to say briefly dated, and obviously it was not successful.
No.
And
But it
there were,
failed like numerous times. Like, the car drove into the wall like several times before we learned our lesson.
and just so you know, there were no actual accidents. No one got hurt.
Sorry.
But yeah, let
Metaphorically, we drove
metaphor.
our car into the wall several times.
You know, we'll leave the details out.
Yes,
But let's just say,
it didn't work.
it didn't work at all, and we were destined to be friends. And
Yes.
the last time there were some tears involved. And the benefit of age for me is you have the sharpest memory of any human being I've ever met.
And I feel as though I have a terrible memory right now, but mostly my short term is what's missing at the moment. I
Yeah,
remember a lot of key moments.
yeah. Unfortunately, you remember too many of those key moments. And
You were vicious.
a decade. Okay, here we go. A decade went by. And when we became like very close friends within the past few years, and I
Yeah,
don't, and I freely admitted I barely remember when we dated,
right.
and you did, and
I do remember it. Yes.
I just prefer not to remember it. The point is, the
But not
point
because
is
of me. Not because of me.
that
I
was
just want
all.
out there that that's
Uh
not why you prefer, because I was awesome the whole time.
no, it was completely my fault. You had nothing to do with it. You were barely even there at ever. So yeah. Um, you were saving this for this recording. Like
No
I
one wants to hear any of this. No, keep
no,
going. I have more.
no. But the point is, before I step off this topic, is we've known each other a long time. Dating was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Dating for me in general is just a bad idea.
Yeah, you weren't good at it.
I'm not. Obviously, I'm not. I've never been really good at it because
No, you were terrible.
I'm 50 and I live with 7 cats. But I digress.
But that's who you are, and you're happy, so who cares?
But we're very good friends, but we
Yes.
haven't seen each other
No,
in something like 12 years, and we don't need to.
I don't think
At some point, we'll probably hang out at some
so.
point.
I would maybe. Yeah.
At some point, I should meet your kid at some point. I'd
I
like to
mean,
meet
maybe.
Jasper, and oh yeah, I should
Oh,
probably meet your husband too.
yeah.
It would be nice to
I feel
meet
like
everyone.
but you guys have like spoken, you and Sean,
Yeah,
right?
I have
Yeah.
his number. We've texted.
Yeah. But
Um,
see, my husband's very understanding because that period of time, 12 years ago when we dated, that was between husbands. And I was dating and not wanting commitment and forming these really actually amazing relationships that became extremely, a lot of them lifelong or long term. And I think we've had this conversation before. I think when we stop trying to put everybody in a little box and make relationships what we think, black and white they're supposed to be, just like, people will judge us for not wanting to leave the house and be in our pajamas and sit on the couch. Um, I think there's a level of open-mindedness because the world is opened up in such a way that we don't have to physically go places as often as we used to.
No. I mean, our friendship is completely possible through technology.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Whereas,
if I think it would be weird like 30 years ago if you and I dated and then I married someone else and then every once in a while you and I had like hour-long conversations on the phone. Like I think
yeah,
then
because
that might be
that would
weird.
be the only option.
Right. And I think that would somehow be weird, but we're just like, because Sean will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'll be like, "I'm talking to Dan." And he'll be like, "Cat Dan?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, Cat Dan." And then it's fine. Like, like,
Is that how I'm known in your
yeah,
house?
you're
Is
Cat Dan. You're
cat?
Cat
Are
Dan.
there other Dans, or is just cat Dan?
There aren't. So I don't know why.
So why do I need to be different?
I
It's
don't
that
know.
one
I
with
don't,
the cats. All
in
right.
case, in case another Dan pops up, I guess. I don't
Okay.
know.
Hopefully that
I,
other Dan doesn't have cats.
you know,
See,
that would be,
that would screw
that
things
would
up.
that would screw things up. So, but we're not adding. We're not. I mean,
No.
we recently added one person, but again, that was just, it's because I have a child and there's this like necessity to be cordial. And I did want I thought I wanted mom friends, and then I realized that I didn't want mom friends. And then I accidentally fell onto, not for real, like I didn't actually fall onto her, but like our kids became friends and I introduced myself to her and I was certain I would hate her because she was Israeli and I dated lots of Israelis who were awful humans. So I thought I hated all Israelis, but it turns out I just hate Israeli men. So, but this isn't a political
But
conversation.
no,
This,
but
this,
that's part of
so
who you are. So that's
it
good to know.
is. And we love her and she's cool. She's in the circle now, but she's kind of like us. And I think that's the thing. You got to just find your people. And there's so many people in the world and it's so hard to find your people and so easy to find people you want to punch in the face.
No, I think that's what I like about our friendship now is we at some point we'll hang out if that takes another bunch of years to happen, that's fine, because we can have a fulfilled friendship where there's a lot to talk about, there's a lot of back and forth, and we also support each other because I vented to you about things in my life, and you live on Long Island, in the middle of an area that is filled with things to vent about. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot going on, and there's a lot of drama. So you have someone to vent to, and the beauty of technology is, we also don't. For everyone listening, we don't type all this out.
No,
We use audio
because we're
mostly
lazy.
prime because it's a lot of typing, and we're both working at
Yeah.
the time because this is like a daytime friendship mostly.
Yeah.
And although we're recording at night right now,
Yeah.
but we use the audio recording part of your phone, and it's not iPhone specific. It's on Android as well. You just record an audio clip as opposed to typing it out, and it's much easier to just get your point out, and you also get the emotion of what you're dealing
Right.
with. So you get all the inflections of, yeah, that's some serious shit.
Yeah.
And and we listen and we react in real time, like, wow, oh, that sucks, oh, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm not overwhelmed. Don't take this personally. I'm not overwhelmed with the desire to come hang out with you, because
Neither am I.
because I don't want to make you cry. And
Don't ever.
and and every time you see me, oh my god,
Oh
you
my
went for me.
god! Just the look of you makes me cry.
Where the onion? And
Exactly.
and it's just, it serves its purpose. I want to stay connected with people, but I don't feel the need to go hang out with them. Like, I have other friends. I have one specific friend who'll, he'll try to constantly get me to go do things, or this thing's coming up or that thing's coming up, and I don't. It sounds great, but I don't want to. It's not like I'm afraid. Like you said, I'm not afraid to leave the house. I'm comfortable here. And that was the episode before this, is how to be a successful hermit, is, to me, is to set yourself up with the things that make you comfortable.
Right.
My home has the content I like to watch, the furniture I like to sit on, and I'm surrounded by cats, and cats make me happy. That
Well,
doesn't
I
mean,
think. Sorry, I
no,
interrupted
no,
you. I'm terrible about this.
no.
I think that COVID forced us to make our homes that way, right? We had to make our homes a place that we could not leave for a long period of time. And some people went crazy, and some people were like, this is nice. Like, I told my boss, you should give up the office because I'm never coming back, and I sold my car. So you either have to fire me or let me work from home forever. Fortunately, it worked out.
Right.
But, some people aren't that. Like, to me, because he was like, aren't you going to miss the human interaction at the office? I'm like, that was the thing I liked about the job the least. Like, those people were not my people. and and that's what would make me the most miserable, were the other people in the office space with us, which, by the way, weren't even people that, like, I worked with. We were just sharing office space with other
Right.
people.
Right.
And so I'm content doing my job and being home and with my cat and being able to take care of the house and being able to show up for my daughter and take her on and off the bus and whatever. And like I said, obviously I'm forced to go out and do more, but when given the choice between, like, even tonight, like, my parents were going out to dinner. They're like, do you want to go out to dinner with us? And I'm like, no, we don't want to. We want to stay in. Like, I don't I don't need to go somewhere every day. Whereas, like, especially, and I've seen it a lot in, like, the older generation, like my parents' age and stuff, they have a real judgment of us not needing to leave the house every day. Like, that there's something wrong with us because we can be home for a long period of time. And I think part of it's a product of COVID, that we had to get used to it. And I think the other thing is that our world isn't so small at home. It isn't just the home. You have the ability to maintain relationships and friendships through various forms of media when used properly. They can also be really bad and negative and make you depressed and all that stuff. So, like, if that's happening, then yeah, get off your computer and go outside. But um but when done correctly, I don't think it's anybody's place to judge what makes you happy. Like, that's just all we're trying to do, is everyone's just trying to be happy.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had a car since my last relationship ended 2 years ago,
I
and
think I'm longer because I sold it at the beginning of COVID.
I've had, I theoretically, if I want one, I can go get one, but I would be spending hundreds a month for something to sit in the driveway.
That's why we sold my car, because I was the last one driving and it kept dying in the driveway.
You know, I it's just what you said. I'm happy, I'm comfortable, and I can stay connected with the people that mean a lot to me. And it's my core group of people, and those people, and I'm proud to consider you one of them. But I also have the good fortune of being able to work from home. And a lot of that, in terms of what you said, do you miss being in the office with office people? Here's where technology, we communicate via Microsoft Teams,
Right.
which is one of like a Slack
Yeah.
or whatever Google uses nowadays. They keep changing it, but
But
it's
there are some people meant to be in the office every day, I
yeah.
think.
There are some jobs where it's just absolutely necessary. One of my
Well, I think,
coworkers goes in because he's the polar opposite of me. He gets claustrophobic if he's home for too long,
yeah, like
so he has to
Sean
go in.
would probably do better if he had to go to the office. Maybe not all 5 days, because I think the existence of the 9 to 5, 40-hour work week, we learned that's not, during COVID, we learned that's not necessary. Life doesn't have to be like that. Um, but I think because it's such a big company, I work for a very small company. There's three of us, but he works for a very big company, and they're hiring people, and there's mergers and corporate bullshit and yada,
Right.
yada, yada, and new people coming in and out and whatever. And they do miss this sort of forming of relationships that would form over bullshit lunches and, you know, team meetings and other team building bullshit that they
Yeah.
did, or just like, the birthday cake on so and so's birthday in the, kitchen. And so he's actually started scheduling. I think it's ridiculous. If I worked for him, I would want to quit. But he's actually scheduled a group meeting of his team where it's like coffee break together, where they're like just hanging out together on a Zoom call or whatever they use. I don't
I've
know what
heard
they
of that.
use.
That's fairly common. They have that at my company.
Do they?
They have groups where you could just hop on and shoot the shit for a little bit. I never join them because I have too much to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If your boss is sending out, because that's the other thing I don't think he probably understands, or maybe it's a corporate thing that they told them to do. But like, if your boss is sending out if you want to hang out meeting invitation, like, and you're brand fucking new. Oh, sorry. Oh, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, go
Um,
do it.
if you're brand new, like, you have to take the invitation. You have to sit
Yeah,
and
of
have the
course.
conversation. During COVID, every year my boss insists, even though only him and I still live in New York State, that we get together for um, Christmas, which is funny because we're both Jewish. And he knows I don't enjoy it. Like, he knows I don't enjoy human interaction. We've known each other over 10 years as well. He knows who I am as a person, but he feels human interaction is very important. And he wants to have dinner and see our faces every year. And like, we have a meeting once a week to discuss things. There's three of us. We're always talking. But once a week, there's like a Zoom. It's not Zoom, I guess it's Teams. I don't know. We can all see each other. There's a video. And like, that's really important to him. And in the beginning, we used to like, it was on Wednesdays, we used to like get dressed and like put on makeup and stuff and like try to look, professional. And at this point, I mean, it's boiled down to the three of us. Sometimes it's more than the three of us, sometimes it's not. But in the end, it's the core three. And the last call, like, I was in my pajamas with my hair up, and the other girl was wearing a bathrobe, and her hair was all kinds of crazy. Like, it's over. Like, you are
Yeah.
stuck with us. Like, you know, but I guess for like a bigger company like his, where like there is a constant change of people and you need to sort of get to know each other's personalities, I guess that part is necessary. And maybe an occasional like once a month group meetup, but generally speaking, forced social interaction rarely turn into real relationships. And the majority of work relationships I've had were, as they turned out to be, more of a situationship. We were best friends because we saw each other every day. So we were each other's person to talk to because we had nobody else, because we were both physically going to the same place every day. But once
Yeah,
we stopped working together, there was nothing left to talk about. The friendship is gone.
yeah,
So I don't know exactly what my point is there, but that's my thesis on relationships and work.
yeah. I I I I, I think that's a positive outcome of pandemic. Is
For me,
is
it was very positive. It let me have the best of both worlds.
is the kind of change in work culture. If I would have to get a car, if the pandemic never happened, this job, I work for a very large health insurance company. There's thousands of people all over the country. Um, Even the division in New York where I am, there's like 800, 900 people or something like that. It's a very large company. They just moved into a massive new office, and it's still very hybrid. You can choose to be partial, or you could choose not to be. They know I don't have a car, so I get to work remotely. Um,
I don't think I knew you were in health insurance, and we can't get into specifics, but did you know Sean is too?
I did not know that.
That's funny.
We'll
We didn't
we'll
know
talk
that.
we'll talk
We'll talk
privately.
later.
We'll
We
talk
won't
later.
talk the specifics now, but I just
Yeah,
think it's funny that I never thought to even ask you.
yeah. I can't
We talk every
podcast for
day.
a living yet. I wish I could. Um, you know, I wish I could, but it's a ways to go.
Um,
I think I lost you for
Literally
a
just
second.
today I watched a document. I don't know what you have planned for this, but I'm just sharing. Literally today, I watched a new documentary on Hulu. I think Hulu is the
The green one.
no, is the streaming
Okay.
system that put it out, but they're like married with Disney Plus too, so I think you can get it there.
Yep.
Um, I think the show is called, the documentary is called The Contestant, and
I've
it's,
heard of that.
yeah, I watched the whole thing today. It's horrible. It's horrible what they did to this person, and it's worth a watch for sure. Um, but it's one of those things you can't watch passively, which majority of the television I watch is passively, but you have to read the subtitles. And for someone who's dyslexic, I chose to sit there and read the subtitles for almost 2 hours, so it's good.
Wow.
Um, the only other movie I ever did that with is Life is Beautiful. So, and it told, like, I got the message of the documentary, and it's, again, really good, and actually has a bit to do with being isolated, but the difference between being isolated and choosing to be home but connected to the world. So it is kind of relevant. You should definitely watch it. Um,
What's it called again? Contestant?
I think it's called The Contestant.
Okay. I will look
Um,
it up.
and it's absolutely fascinating. The premise, without giving too much away, is that there is this man who is in this room by himself, and all he can have. This is that this actually took place, I think, in the late 1990s, at the beginning of like webcams and the internet and that sort of thing. So people weren't familiar with it. Big Brother didn't exist yet, like that sort. Like it wasn't normal yet, that kind of show. And people were still entering like sweepstakes through postcards in the mail from magazines. And so it was this man alone in a room, and he had to live off of only what he won from the sweepstakes. And additionally, he had to win enough prizes to equal a certain amount of money that would then allow him to leave the room. There's a whole lot more to this, and it's worse than even it sounds. But
Yeah, wow.
he kept winning things from the sweepstakes, and briefly when I was younger, I was like into sweepstakes, and then I was like, why did I stop? And so like just today, I'm like, my new hobby is sweepstakes because what's the harm? Like all these things that I could possibly win and get delivered to my door. And as long as I don't spend money on it, I feel like it's not a harmful hobby. And I set up a separate email address just for sweepstakes. And so that today has become my new hobby. And that is definitely, like, you're going to watch this and be like, that's what you got from it. So it's awful. It's not the message that you're supposed to get from the documentary at all. So I just want to make it clear that I also got the message of the documentary. But
And just as a disclaimer, this episode has not been sponsored by this documentary in any way,
no,
shape, or
you had
form.
no idea I was even going to bring it up because I had no idea I was going to watch it today. But it's one of those ones that you're like, not life changing, but like I love documentaries. I eat them up. Like if there's a new one on, I want to see it. And there's only a few that, like a handful that like really like, oh, that was life changing, or that was like I really got something out of it different than, the same BS things we're trying to, documentaries are trying to, save the earth or whatever crap,
I hate I hate to bring cats into a non-cat podcast, but have you watched the documentary on the cats in Istanbul?
On what?
Um, I forget Cody or Kobe. I don't remember the name of it. I think it's on Netflix. It's a documentary about the culture of stray cats in Istanbul.
No, I have not seen that one.
I will look it up.
Yeah, look that up for me.
It may
But
be
there's
on YouTube, but it's all about how how accepted the stray cats are and how well cared for the stray
that
cats are, and
that exists in a few places though.
but they focused on the city of Istanbul
Uh-huh.
because they come and go out of people's homes, they live in stores,
Oh
and
wow.
it's not like it's not there's no negative stigma about the stray cats. Again,
So
this has
you were
nothing to do
meant
with
to live in Istanbul
I'm meant to live as a hermit in Istanbul one day.
with
Uh,
cats just coming in and out of your, I'm assuming, hut
my
with
hut
Wi-Fi.
with Wi-Fi and air conditioning. You know me.
Yeah.
That's what I said in the last episode 5 weeks ago. Is I have the top, FiOS internet plan. I have way too many streaming services that are all bundled into my FiOS plan.
Yeah.
So I surround myself with plenty of things to stimulate myself.
Yeah, I think if you got cut off, like, really, you should watch the documentary. Because I think if you got cut off from all of that stuff, then it wouldn't be a sustainable lifestyle.
No, and that's really how like technology and I am able to work from home and earn a living without leaving the house. I'm able to stay connected with friends without leaving the house. I'm able to get the things I need delivered to my house, like groceries and food for the cats and the medicines I need, sometimes medicines they need. The only thing I can't do is cut my own hair, so I do have to go get a haircut. And it's not like it's not, and there are some people that suffer from a fear of leaving the house. I had a good. I walked to town, and it was a beautiful day, and I took my phone and took some pictures of I don't know what I took pictures of, like stuff in town, um, mostly to prove that I actually did it. And it was a nice day, and I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed being out, but it's not something I want to do too often. It's not like I want to get in the car and take a trip somewhere. I used to, and again, I'm 50, so I feel I've earned the right to be a hermit at my age after years of not being a hermit and being in good situations and bad situations. I've earned the right to spend the foreseeable future more at home than out.
Yeah, I
There were,
mean, when
I'm not advocating that if somebody half our age or even younger is listening to this, I'm not advocating necessarily that you mirror this lifestyle. But
no,
I'm just saying if when I was younger there was a stigma to, oh, he never goes anywhere, he must be a loser, or stuff like that. If he doesn't have plans every Friday and Saturday night, it
ugh,
means nobody likes him. He's a loser. My
nobody
point
wants to
behind
go
this
out.
show is, in this day and age, that is almost an outdated kind of notion. You don't have to feel that way. I don't know enough. I this kind of leads me into my question of, how does your daughter react to that, your mentality of, I don't want to go out unless I really want to, or when we go somewhere, you do travel, you do take trips as
Yeah.
family, you go places, but when there's a lot of time when you're like, I don't want to go anywhere, and it sounds like your husband kind of agrees with you. How does she react? Because
So
she has her own friends, right?
yeah, she has the super active lifestyle. So you have to remember that this child is leaving the house every day to go to school, and then the break between school and camp is very small. I think it's like a weekend. Like I remember when I was young, I thought there was at least like a week between school. I mean, I never went to camp, but I thought people had more time. Anyway, there's usually just a weekend between school and camp. So like she's busy. And then she does like she has other activities like um singing and clubs and whatever. So she is busy. And I don't actually get to stay home as much as I want to. So like,
Right,
we're
you
taking
can't.
her to right.
You
So
literally can't.
right. I take her to see shows. I don't want to cut her off from the world, obviously. So I would say
Okay.
that she doesn't react to it because she doesn't experience it, right? Like
She's
when
too
we
busy
have
to
a
too busy
right,
to
she's
know.
too busy to experience like, my choice in being home and being like when I have a choice between going out and staying in, she's usually sleeping. Like
Okay, that's fair.
so it doesn't really affect her. And like when we go away now, I mean, she's old enough that we're doing the whole thing together, and she's staying up as late as I'm staying up, and like I mean, she had a ball on the plane recently because what 7-year-old doesn't want to fly first class? I don't think she realizes that's not how everybody flies, but I want to be her in my next life. So it doesn't affect her life. She has two very introverted parents, and she seems to be slightly more extroverted than us. She wants to be on stage, she wants to perform, and she likes attention, which is the polar opposite of me and my husband. Um, but
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, but some of that I attribute to her being an only child because if she wants to play with someone, she doesn't have any built-in playmates. And so she also spent the very early part of her life with just adults because of COVID.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
she was not exposed to any kids on a regular basis till she was about 4. And I never treated her like a child. Oh, I mean, I treat her like a child. I don't baby talk to her. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't change my language for her. And that even includes the bad language. She knows when it's appropriate to use and when it's not appropriate to use and what you can say. So she's really good at forming relationships with adults. It's harder for her to form relationships with children, believe it or not. This year, she's finally gotten around to like coming into who she is and make a lot of the friendships she was making were the super extroverted kids like latching onto her and pulling her around,
Right.
whereas now she seems to be zeroing and finding her people. But as a parent, you want to do your best to take all of what you are and almost hide it. Not, that's not the right word, but I want her to be who she is, not who I am. So I try to hide any of, my neuroses or whatever. I mean, she does see me cry and then she sees me be okay, and that's important. Whereas, like, my mother's generation, you didn't cry in front of your children, but she isn't really as experienced with how much I would like to be home in bed, or me and my husband would like to be home in bed, um, instead of out. It doesn't affect her because we have to do these things. We have to go to the birthday parties and we have to
Right.
go to the recitals, which all this stuff's coming up left and right. And we do it. And then we usually look around and go, see, that's why we only have one.
And that's
The
why
other ones are awful.
our friendship works, because we're a during the week friendship.
Hmm.
We talk less on the weekends, but
We do.
we
But
can
not,
always shoot a quick text to each
yeah.
other, or we're connected on social media. Sometimes I'll see, you'll share an Instagram post or an Instagram story that's she's featured in. Occasionally you're featured in it. Less occasionally your husband is featured in it. More than any human, your cat is featured in it.
Yes.
But
It's mostly for Jasper.
mostly for Jasper. Jasper has a TikTok, by the way. Just look up Jasper. Um,
He hasn't posted in a while.
but he hasn't posted in a while, but
He's
that's
very
okay.
upset about the war, but that's a whole other story.
Jasper is also featured on the Shelter Cats podcast TikTok. I have no social media for this podcast yet, because I don't think it warrants it. This is I record every 5 weeks. It's only an occasional thing, so it's a spin-off of Shelter Cats, basically.
Yeah.
But so that's good. She sounds like a very healthy, well-rounded, very very well-adjusted kid.
Yeah. I'm
How old is she
trying.
again?
How old is she? 7?
I keep thinking she's 9, but
She's not. She's 7. She's 15, basically, or 30. I'm not sure,
7 going on
but
30.
she's 7. She so knows who she is and is unapologetic about it. And
That's something you don't hear too often at that age. That's a
yeah,
pretty big deal.
yeah, she knows what she wants, and she's willing to fight for it like an animal.
Who does that
And
sound like?
I don't know anyone else
I've never heard that
who
before,
is
ever.
like that at all. So,
No, I wonder where she gets that.
and she knows that, like, if somebody does something that mommy doesn't like to her, that mommy goes a little crazy. And she mostly is like, "Ooh, you in trouble. You shouldn't have done
Don't
that."
make her
So,
angry. You would like it when she's angry.
yeah. So, um, I want her to have the best chance at not having any of the things I need therapy for. I mean, as a parent, anyone will tell you there's no rule book and you screw up. I think the most important thing our generation is doing is apologizing to our children. I think that is something that was never allowed before. And it's ridiculous because they don't come with a manual and you're not going to get it right every time. And so when I fuck up, I apologize because when she fucks up, I expect her to apologize to me. And so that to me, generationally, is going to heal some shit for a lot of people. But trusting people, she knows, I mean, everyone knows I trust no one. And
You don't trust me?
I trust you, but
Gee,
I
thanks.
also believe you're fully, I'm divorced. I also fully believe that someone could change at any point in time and completely turn on you. I have this friend in California who I had a similar relationship with, like that I have with you, like we haven't seen each other in 20 years, but we've always kept in touch. And her and I were talking on a regular basis for like a lot over the past like 2 years. And she had lost her job and she had a lot of stuff going on in her life. And I'm, because I work from home, I'm kind of available during the day because of my job. Like I can do my job and talk to people because I don't have to talk to people at work. I just have to do the work. So something happened and I have zero clue what I did that was so egregious that she has completely stopped responding to any of my messages. Just like ghosting me. And you have to understand, this is a woman who I sent her children presents. I've sent groceries to her doorstep when she was going to have her children for the weekend. And she didn't have food in the house for them. So I Instacarted food to her doorstep in California. I did that on more than one occasion. I I don't say these things as a brag or whatever, but like when you're my friend, I go hard is basically the point. And I expect people to fuck up. I expect I will fuck up. What I don't expect is for you to completely leave me if you think I've made an error. And I think, unfortunately, because it's happened in my life, for people that I thought were, excuse the colloquialism, were ride or die, I think anyone's capable of doing it. Anyone.
I understand. I understand.
And so that was a very long, roundabout answer to the question. But I believe anyone is capable of turning their back on me tomorrow for a reason I might not even ever understand.
You're a two-time podcast guest, so there's no chance of me doing that.
You say that now.
And
I had an email from you once that was, I wish I
oh my
saved it. It was
God, thank
so
God you
vicious.
didn't delete it.
It was
Listen, that was
so
a different.
vicious.
That was a obviously. Thank God my memory is faded. Um, with as part of my cognitive decline, but since we're recording this for all posterity, I obviously was a different person. I was a more intense person. I was obviously an angrier person.
Yeah.
Although my ex would probably refer to me as an ogre because they were slobs and I was not. That's a whole different story. I was an angrier, my passions were misguided, maybe. I was just a different person. I'm not going to apologize again
No. I think at
because we
that
don't need
point,
to. but I was just a
Right?
different person. I had
You
different
wanted different
priorities.
things. Yeah, you wanted different things. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't even know if you would remember, but I think at the time, especially because I think you had a fiance and
yeah,
things were kind of moving fast with us. Like your goals were different. Like you
yeah.
wanted
I was
a
in my
different
late
life.
I was in my late 30s, and I definitely felt the the pressure of finding
It's
someone
time.
to
Yeah,
build a
yeah,
future with.
yeah.
And at the time, I still had a connection with my parents, which I no longer have. And there was definitely a pressure, and anybody who's had parents, Jewish or not, I've felt that. But there was definitely a pressure of, hey, you're pushing 40 and you haven't found that person yet. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
There's like when you're younger and you don't have plans every Friday and Saturday. The stigma from my day was you're a loser.
right.
Where that translates to when you're in your late 30s and you're not married with kids yet. The
You've done
the
something
the
wrong.
pressure at the
Yeah,
time, sort of society, sort of family, was what's wrong with you. The more time that goes by when you haven't found that person to settle down. So in my case, you make bad choices and you settle with the wrong people. So
yeah.
that's kind of why at this point I've experienced a lot of life. I've experienced a lot of love, a lot of loss. And this lifestyle that I now choose to live, I'm fortunate that it's possible because I work from home and I can have everything delivered here and I can be friends with you without having to see you. No offense. But
You don't
I don't
want
want,
to. It's fine.
it's not like, you're not Quasimodo or anything. I want
I
people to
don't think
understand this.
so. My daughter's
But
gorgeous though, and everybody thinks she looks
she's
like me.
adorable. She's adorable. She's freaking
No,
adorable.
she's too good looking, okay?
She's
And I
definitely,
don't mean that in a like,
she's a miniaturized version of you. She's adorable.
no, we can't leave the house without a stranger telling me she's beautiful. And it drives me up the wall because it scares the crap out of me. Because I'm like, I mean, as her mother, I obviously think she's beautiful. But
She's
like,
she's adorable, and I don't like all kids, and I think she's a
no, I don't,
very
I don't like very many children at all.
some kids are very unattractive, and she's adorable.
I mean,
But
I'm assuming she'll have an awkward phase at some point, but like right
maybe
now, the
maybe
kid is
not.
killing it. She
Some
is killing it.
Sometimes they don't have awkward phases. Maybe she
Yeah,
won't. It's
I don't
possible
know.
that she'd skip it over.
I don't know.
You
But
know,
I just wish that I could leave the house and not have strangers tell her or
not gonna
me or
happen.
whatever that she's gorgeous because in some capacity. Because it's why don't go up to strangers and comment on their children. Like just don't.
Yes,
Like
please don't do that. It's no
there's
longer
just
acceptable.
it's just not okay. I
It's creepy.
I know that the majority of them are probably well intentioned, but no, it's just not okay. I don't like. Then I just want to lock her in a room. Like we've had serious conversations, like things that I'm afraid of. Why I don't want to go in public, but like we love to go to like theme parks and stuff, which that'll take all the energy out of me. Not just because it's physically exhausting, but because there's so many people around, and that just sucks the life out of you. But we've had serious talks about what one does in a crowd. There's different levels of rule. Like, in
Right.
certain places, she knows you must be holding a grown up's hand. In other crowds that are too crowded, my husband has to pick her up because that's the way she's safest. And then I guess when she's like 16, that'll have to stop. But like, we've also had
Yes, please.
conversations about like if someone grows to grab you, like I've researched and like self-defense and stuff for kids, and the apparently hardest way to grab a kid is if they're actually flat on the ground. So she knows that if someone tries to grab at her, she is to throw her body on the ground and kick and scream as loud as she can. And we practiced like that. I think that's part of the reason why, like, I don't want to leave the house. Like, I had to do
Well,
that with
yeah,
my
that's a
daughter,
whole
and
different
and
story.
I don't think that that's crazy. Like, I think that she needs those tools. Like,
Can we get her a
sorry.
taser?
Well, we're talking about getting her into like jujitsu or something
There
like
you
that.
go. I took karate at that age. There's definitely a benefit.
There's definitely a like, I definitely want her to be able to defend herself. I mean, on a totally other topic, the statistics of how many women are sexually assaulted in just my generation alone, let alone what's going to happen to
Right.
her, is just ridiculous. And still all we're doing is teaching women how to. There was a comic I was just watching, but it was half comic and like half he was spreading a message. I think it was like a TikTok I caught by accident, but he was like, every woman every day gets up and is trying not to get raped. Like, that's her day.
Yeah.
That's for every woman. Men, they just go. And that's not how it should be. Like, we know what we're supposed to do to not get raped. You guys need to fucking stop it. That's the missing piece, and it's never going to end until that is addressed. Is, what are
Right.
we teaching our boys? Why is it 1 in 10 of you are going to do it and think it's fine and not even realize you've done something wrong? Where are we missing? And therefore, I never want to leave the house, and I never want my child to leave the house, but we still do, because I don't want her to be weird.
And on that note, you have now we have now opened our little world up as proof positive that you can have awesome friendships and be stimulated by friendships that matter with good people like you. And we don't have to hang out, and we don't have to
David.
see, we don't have to go anywhere, we don't have to do anything, and we don't really have to talk on the phone. We just,
No,
occasionally record a podcast.
exactly.
Before we go,
Uh-oh.
I would, I must mention
Uh-oh.
that I'm dedicating this episode to my Shelter Cats podcast co-host, Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle lost her cat Legs last night.
Oh.
Her cat, he was in his late teens, and his name is Legs. And he was named Legs because apparently, I've seen pictures of him, but his legs are very long and reminded her of a French leotard. So he got the name Legs, and he lost his battle with a illness that he'd had for a very long time, and he crossed the Rainbow Bridge last night. So I'm dedicating, because this episode's coming out basically this weekend. So
Cool.
I'm dedicating this episode to my co-host Michelle and Legs, because she's grieving his loss right now. So
That's horrible.
So I'm just dedicating this episode to Legs. But this has more than proven the point that I wanted to get across, that
Oh, good.
you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to do anything, and you could still have friends, and you could still be connected to people that mean something to you, and also
You can still have the full life you want.
You could still have the full life you want and be happy, and you don't have to feel the urge to leave the house to do it. So,
No.
Shari, my
Yes.
dear friend that I'm glad we never dated, thank you so much. Thank you for not keeping the emails that I apparently wrote in anger.
Oh, for
and
sure.
be fortunate that I am aging rapidly and I'm just not that person anymore. But thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
this.
having me.
We'll do this again,
Yes.
and maybe we'll have your friend on who is also like us, so we could have like a triumvirate of hermit friends.
Just people that don't want to leave the house.
So you too can live the hermit life. Just give it a try. Shari, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.